You want to know what? Something about myself? Oh, you already started. Okay. Alright. Hello, my name is Jonathan Price, and I pretend to be a scholar from time to time. I bought these shoes because my wife and I were in a store, and she told me I needed a pair of shoes. And I didn't really believe her, but I'm glad I did buy them in the end, by Air. And I owned them for 5 years, so I've walked almost everywhere I went in them. Home is Oxford sometimes. I feel at home in Oxford, or at least certain places in Oxford. Home, well, I was born in America. My wife's Polish. I'm a resident of the Netherlands, and I am maybe between homes right now. I'm a bit itinerant, like a troubadour without music. Well, when I got them, they weren't yet stylish, and that's probably why they were discounted the way they were, but then they became stylish, so I don't know, I'm not very vain, so I'll buy something, and if it becomes stylish, I'm happy, and if it doesn't, I'll think, well, anyway, I wasn't trying, so. When I was young, I was told that we wouldn't have to tie shoes when we were older. We'd be in a post-lace society. I even remember a pair of shoes that had a little dial on them, so you put them on and you would, and whenever I tie my shoes, I think, why am I still tying shoes? You know, don't we have an app for that? Okay. I'm pretty good at a lot of things. I'm not great at any one thing, but if you're pretty good at a lot of things, a lot of people want you to do things for them. So I look forward to those moments in the day when I have to read or to reflect, which are rarer and rarer. I have one wife, 2 children, and a few jobs, so yeah, one wife so far. I find it's increasingly difficult to find a space where one can go, a literal space, and a space in one's own mind where it's possible to think about, what am I doing here? Have I done the right things? Should I do things differently? Etc., etc. So I look for some quiet time, and I find it harder and harder to acquire. There's a lot of beauty in Oxford that's always, or almost always, hidden, because it's behind a wall or a door. But some people can access, and some people can't. But those who can access it revolves. You know, there's no one who can access all the doors. Some people who can access more of them, and some who can access almost none. So tourists have to pay to get through the doors. It's nice to think about all of these places which one could potentially go to, most of which I can't go in, and then kind of figure out a way to get into it. And, you know, there's nothing more interesting than a closed door. You know, if all the doors are open, then things are terribly uninteresting. Yeah, sometimes I think about myself in high heels and it hurts. You know, imagine, I don't really know why women do this. Beyond the very basics like that, shelter, decent food, I think humans can tolerate tremendous misery. And humans can even tolerate the absence of necessities if they feel that they belong to something that they also know is good. Being alienated or being in some way feeling like one doesn't have love, and I don't mean romantic love necessarily, I mean that one is loved and one can love, one can care for others and be cared for. When that's absent, humans can find almost anything intolerable. When it's present, humans can tolerate almost anything. Well, I can't really move freely in Europe, so I experienced this in Europe as well. Every time I go through the Schengen Treaty border, to Schengen to non-Schengen, it causes trouble, especially because I try to live my life in 3 countries, Holland, Poland, and Britain, working variously in them. And I try to work within the system as much as is possible, but the rules aren't harmonized, and so I think I understand what it's like. It can be extremely disruptive, but it's disruptive because I expect to travel freely. If I didn't expect to travel freely, I would plan differently. I would understand certain things not to be opportunities. And maybe I would get involved more in the community, one of these communities, rather than moving about between three of them. I don't know, I'll give two cheers of three for freedom of movement. It's a good, but it can be very disruptive psychologically, communally, sociologically, personally. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think of an actor in the sense that I'm choosing things and then going and doing them and accomplishing, but I think that's probably not true. I think actually much of what I've done has been reacting to things around me, presented with some choices, and I react to them. So I probably, the image I have of myself is probably untrue. So if I had to describe myself from a third person's perspective, it would be something like, he reacts kind of well to what he's given. Well, I write things, and so I think there's always something a little bit, you know, maybe proud or narcissistic about a writer, because you know, writers need readers, and maybe, you know, we hope that our readers will continue in some way after we die. I would like to leave my children with a sense of trust in being, that, you know, things go wrong and bad things happen and people die, but in spite of this, one can have a general trust in being. Now, I mean, I'm a Christian, and so being has a name, it is a personal God, but trust in being is a more general description of a providential sense that things aren't hopeless, even and especially in the moments when hope seems lost or when hope seems losable. And that's a sense that I want to have, but haven't been able to hold on to as strongly. I think many people I know think that I'm quite political because I have ideas that disagree with their politics. And actually, it's almost the last thing I'm interested in. The most contentious bits I have with other people is they tend to assume that I'm politically aligned with people they don't like. And they stop listening to the ideas, they stop listening to the conversation behind it. I think what we want is for someone else to be able to feel how things feel to us, or to me, but not as feeling, as feeling that connects to thought and history, personal history, and one's place in the world. So it's almost like someone could inhabit that emotional state that isn't based on emotions, it's based on everything that's come before and hope for what will come. The trouble is, I know that that's impossible. Knowing that this can never happen, I've tried to cultivate a sense of, you know, gratitude for what people have been able to understand in me, and kind of forgiveness for what could never be understood or what they haven't been able to understand, and kind of move in between gratitude and forgiveness. Oh, so where to go? I mean, yeah, I've given you my old shoes. I haven't really changed, though. I've gotten a little irritated because all the new shoes I bought are completely insufficient. What I first need to do is find another pair of shoes that is as well made as those are, so they'll stick together for 5 or 6 years. Now let's say I have that pair of shoes. Where do I want to go? I have a lot of unfinished work, and I have been a bit paralyzed by the 2 long projects which are unfinished, one which is coming to fruition and one which will still take a few years. And I have now 2 projects which will never be finished, and that is, I'm a father. What must I do to do this well? Right? What is required of me? What has to be done so that they grow up to be decent human beings? I think I would like to be better at recognizing small victories or wins on the way toward achieving something. I'm very bad at seeing things in terms of small steps on the way to something. So I'd like to be better at honestly assessing where things are, because I tend to be pessimistic about my own assessments of where I am. Yeah. I want my old shoes back.